Okay, well, awesome. My name is Natalie Knowlton. Again, I work in career services, and I have the privilege to be able to um, work with Handshake in my job. My number one hat is a CSBS career advisor, actually. And then my number two is that I get to manage our campus job board, which is really fun. And I'm really excited to get to talk to you today about it. I do have a poll. So if you have experience with Handshake or no experience with Handshake, regardless, if you could take my poll and just show me the types of things that you're having a struggle with, or you have no experience whatsoever. I would love to know that so that I know how to help best in the future, especially if we do future handshake trainings like this. It's a very short, like 3 question poll. So I promise it's not very long. So while you're doing that, I'm going to go over some context for Handshake, what it is, why we have it, etc.
Did you put that in the chat, Natalie?
I did not, but I can do that right now.
Not to make you switch screens.
Oh, you're good. You're good. How's that?
Great.
That doesn't work.
Awesome.
Let me know, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so Handshake is our job board, and the term handshake and job board are the same. They're interchangeable. So you might hear me say job board, you might hear me say handshake. Students will use one or the other typically, but they might be confused if you say handshake and they're like, "Do you mean the job board?" Or you'll say job board and they're like, "Do you mean handshake? What do you?" So they're one and the same. But we started Handshake in 2020 at UNI, and it's where we house our on-campus and off-campus job postings for students and recent graduates to apply to and hopefully get jobs. We actually are one of many schools in the state of Iowa that uses Handshake. So Iowa uses Handshake, Wartburg and Hawkeye use Handshake. And so that allows us to be more connected with our neighbors. We get to invite each other to our events and our fairs and stuff like that and kind of keep in contact and keep in touch. But we also use this platform in our office for scheduling appointments for all of our career fair registrations, for on-campus recruiting, scheduling, and internship registrations, and a ton more. So it's a dense, complex platform, and we're going to talk about just a little bit about it today. We have about 26,000 jobs currently posted on the platform. That includes all of your jobs as well. But over the year, we have usually well over 100,000 jobs on the site. What's nice is that employers actually opt into our job board so that they have to select UNI as a school that they want to be approved at and post jobs at, which is different than Indeed, where a student can go to Indeed and see like just the abyss of opportunities that may or may not fit them. We hope that this is a bit more narrowed focus for those folks that are launching into a new career or their first career. Just like UNI Works, Handshake has quite a few jargony terms that they use. And sometimes the terms we have like 3 terms for the same thing. So I'm going to show you what those terms are first and tell you what I actually use so that we're all on the same page and you understand what I'm talking about. But in terms of the sides of Handshake, there's 4 sides of Handshake. The developer side, which I don't use, I don't touch. That's like where they, actually build the platform. The career services side, which is what I have, and I have certain controls and don't have certain controls. The employer side, which is what we'll be talking about the most today, and that's where you would post a job on behalf of your department or who you work for. And there's the student side, which is where the students get to log in and see all of your opportunities and apply for them and things like that. My corporate account that I am housed under is career services. So career services is where I work. So that means that in Handshake, my corporate or company account, same thing, is career services. And then I have an employer account underneath that. So my employer account I get to use when I get to hire on behalf of career services, essentially. I'll be using corporate account, that term, and employer account. But you will see on Handshake platforms, they will also use user account to mean employer account at the same time. So I will be using corporate and employer for this presentation. And usually if you email me or call me or something like that, those are the terms that I'm using. There are also account owners and recruiters, and they have different permissions within Handshake. So if you are an owner of your account, you can actually change the name of your corporate account. You can change the branding, you can change the location, certain things like that. You can also add staff members and archive staff members from the corporate account. If you have everybody else is a recruiter, and so they are able to post jobs, attend and go to career fairs, and but they can't change like the brand of the corporate account. If that makes sense. And then lastly, we'll be talking about the job form, which should be the easiest part of Handshake, but the job form is a term for what you actually fill out to post that job. And then job posting is what actually is the product of you filling out that job form. Okay. And Sarah, if there's any questions that you feel like are pertinent to me answering right now, please let me know in the chat. Otherwise, if there's a certain situation that you're in with your Handshake stuff, you can always email me or put a note in the Google form that I put in the chat so that I follow up with you later. Okay. Creating an account and logging in is probably the clunkiest part of getting on Handshake because depending on your situation, if you were a student recently, it might take a little longer. We might have a few more hoops. But usually there's already a corporate account created for where you work. So that could be, for me, that's like career services, right? For you, that could be the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences. So that corporate account is usually already created. If you're not sure if it's created or not, please contact me and let me know because I will create that account for you and invite you to it to be an employer under it, and then you would be the owner of that account. And it's much, much easier, and it's much less frustrating on your account if I just create it for you and I pop you into it. I do not recommend creating a new corporate account because I'm sure it is there. Even if your department or where you work gets renamed, please let me know and we will work to change the name, regardless if you are like the owner of the account or not. So if something weird is happening with your corporate account or your employer account, that's something I want to know, and I can help you with to limit that frustration that you might have. Your employer account is also tied to your email. So even if you switch from career services working here to working for the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, your email is going to stay the same, which means when you log into Handshake, your like corporate account that you're under might not reflect where you work anymore, and we need to switch you from your old workplace to your new workplace. Unfortunately, I can't do that and you can't do that. So we have to ask Handshake to do that. But that is either a quick email or a quick phone call for me. And so that's something, again, that I would prefer you just reach out to me. I can mitigate that frustration for you and that annoyance, and we can just get that done pretty quickly. Again, if your department gets renamed or something is going on that's strange with your employer or corporate account, that's just something that you can reach out to me and I can try to fix as much as I can or call in help when needed. So when you're logging in, this is the screen that you should see when you're logging in as an employer who wants to post a job or check in on a job you've already posted. It should look like this, where there are two options to sign in as a student or alumni or sign in as an employer or career services. And you're looking for the employer and career services login. If this screen does not pop up for you, use an incognito window or a private window and just search Handshake login in that private window, and it should pop this up for you. If you still are not seeing this when you click on Handshake login, If you're seeing this screen instead, then we have an issue. Or most likely you have a student account because you were a student recently. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this is, if you see a cat ID and passphrase option to log in, you have gone the wrong direction and you need to turn around. So the cat ID passphrase is only strictly for students. And Handshake treats on-campus employers and off-campus employers the same. So you will have a completely separate login, username and login from anything you and I related for your employer account. So if you see this, you've gone the wrong direction, open a new incognito window, start over, and it should work, should be fine. If not, email me screenshots, and I will help work around this for you. Okay. When we're actually posting the job, we've gotten into Handshake, we're under the right corporate account, we've done all the right things, yay, fantastic. When we're actually posting the job, there's a great Handshake help article that I have linked with this QR code here that can take you screenshot by screenshot of how to post a job. So even if you can't find this presentation again, or you don't remember my name and email, it is on the internet somewhere. I promise. But this is what you should see when you actually go into your employer account. It kind of looks a little blank if you don't have any jobs posted right now, but that's okay. If you see to the left side, I have a red arrow for the jobs tab and a blue arrow for the fairs tab. These are probably the most used sections of the employer side of Handshake. And we're going to be in the job section the most. Fairs is if you are like a graduate department or something, you want to sign up for the UNI career fair or the UNI graduate school fair. That's the tab that you would use, is that fairs tab with the blue arrow. Otherwise, you're going to use the jobs tab mostly. And at the top, if you are the owner of your account, you'll see in the middle user requests. And that is where you can add or archive staff. And that's where you'll see staff requests come in, because those might come in as you have like new staff members coming in and out of your office. So if you are the owner of the account, it's really important for you to know that. If you don't know who the owner of the account is, that's something I can tell you. So just let me know. But we also have notifications here and messages up at the top as well, the top right. Students can send you messages and you can send students messages, especially if your Handshake account is tagged on a job posting as like the contact for the job posting. They will send you messages of like, hey, still really interested in this job, not quite sure, what it's about. Can you tell me more about it? Something like that. They might send you messages, and so that's something to look out for. If you have a student account and an employer account, if you click on your name and you'll have this drop-down bar, you will use switch users, which is circled in red, to switch between the two sides or the two views. So once you are a student in Handshake, you're always a student in Handshake. Unfortunately, it's not something I can delete and only give you an employer account. So in order to get to the other side, if you are in your student side, you would use that switch users button, and vice versa if you're in your employer side and you want to go into the student side. But that's only if you have both of those things. That can be a little cumbersome. Okay, so once you are in the jobs tab, here we are on the left side, we're in the jobs section. This is what you might see. You're going to see all of the jobs that your company has, or your corporate account has posted ever. So these are not just the jobs that you have posted, these are the jobs that everyone on your account has posted. So you can see me and Laura are the most active ones in our employer side. So we are going to go through a job form and creating an actual job. You can do this in two different ways. You can create a job at the top, and you can do that from scratch. We do have a fun, fancy feature now that you can use AI to create your job description. if that interests you. Otherwise, what I usually recommend students or everyone do is create a job that you can then duplicate and reuse over and over again. So if you click on the three dots that I have circled next to the career assistant job, you can hit that button duplicate, and it's just so much easier for you once you've created one job. If you hire for that type of student every semester, it's very easy. Just make sure to change the opening and closing dates, but otherwise it works really well. So we're going to go on Handshake now on my actual employer side. If you cannot see my Handshake, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you can see my Handshake. This is what good, awesome, green light. This is what my side actually looks like, and I'm going to go into jobs here. And then it will always pull up a filter for you. You can clear that if you want to see all of the jobs ever that have ever been posted on your corporate account. I actually have a draft already ready for us because I actually have something that I need to post, which was really convenient. So this is my job. This is actually a work study announcement that I use, and I tag it as an on-campus job so that when students are looking and seeing the words work study and they don't know what that means, I have like a quick piece of information for them of what that means and where they can go find more information. But it needs to be reposted. So what I'm going to do is click into it here, and we're going to go through the actual job form. The first thing that you will see is your job description. This is something that it carries over from the last job. You can also copy from a completely different job if you want to, which is a nice new feature. So you can do that as well. And then I'm just going to hit continue. It will give you some advice on how to name it. I'm obviously not following all of their advice, but that's totally fine. And I'm going to hit on-campus student employment as my job type, as my position type. I highly recommend, even if you are hiring a GA, that you hit on-campus student employment as your position type, because it's a much smaller, narrower filter than just hitting job. If you hit job and you use that for your position type, you are competing against those 26,000 other jobs that are on the job board currently, which I know you don't want to do. I'd rather compete against like 40 jobs than 26,000. So always hit on-campus student employment, even if you are hiring for a GA. I highly recommend that. Then I have here clicked work study program. In the job form, this is the clunkiest part that you're going to run into because we actually don't have this tag turned on for our campus. So this tag is turned off, but I can't tell you that, unfortunately, in the job form. So if you click this tag, it will not let you post to the University of Northern Iowa. And you will figure that out when you are about ready to post. And then it says, excuse me, you can't do that. And then you have to figure out why. This is usually why. So I'm going to have it clicked for now to show you what it looks like, what that error message looks like. Otherwise, unclick work study program and put work study up here in your job title or in your job description and to be super clear with those students. Okay. Next, I'm going to put on-site location, Cedar Falls, Iowa, pretty standard. Part-time. You can put whatever hours you want to in here as long as it's under 40. It won't get mad at you. Handshake also does not talk to UNI Works. And so UNI Works will not get mad at you for putting 10 hours or 15 hours or 20 hours or something like that. The two platforms do not talk to each other. So I would just put in however many hours you estimate they would actually work and put permanent or temporary or seasonal, whichever works best for your position. I put permanent usually because I am hiring a student until usually they graduate or they leave me for some other reason. But if you're just hiring for the summer, you might consider doing the temporary or seasonal. Okay. I will tell you that students respect transparency on job forms more than anything, on job positions more than anything. So they expect to be told how much they're going to be paid. I will warn you. If you feel like you don't want to put the amount that you can pay, but you have other benefits that you want to like sell them on in job description, I highly recommend that. Otherwise, I always recommend to put the um, exact amount that you'd be able to pay them in the job form so that they know that going up front and they respect that transparency. So I'm just gonna do $10. And actually, I'm not. I'm gonna, since this is like announcement, I'm not gonna do that this time, but I would for a regular job. These like additional compensation things are very optional, and probably not all that representative of like the perks of working in your office. There's other ways down the line that you can talk about that. I just linked here the financial aid because that's the where their extra information can come from. But you could link your website if you wanted to, but that's optional. I would not stress about job role groups because students will not filter by it. So you can put in a couple of job role groups if you want to, but they won't filter by it. So don't be stressed about like putting every single job group in there. I wouldn't even do it if you're going to be stressed about it. Just forget about it. You'll have majors later down the line, and so that's fine. This is something that I get questions about often, is what should I do here? For the sake of international students, I would tell you to click this job does not require US work authorization. Because if you click this job requires US work authorization, you will have less international students actually apply to your jobs, and that will confuse them. So I would just click this down here so that you can be as inclusive to your audience as you can be.
And just to give you a heads up too, obviously that's a part of like the hire process. So if for some reason there was an international student, which is extremely rare, would not be able to work on campus, that would be something that would be caught when they meet like with Cheryl and OBO and those kind of forms. So yep, just to give you a heads up.
Yeah. Yeah. Skills is something great to put in your job form, especially if maybe you're an office that is not like student facing and maybe they might like be a little confused about what they would do in this job, what they would gain. I think skills would be a great area to put in for that. And then the rest of this here is kind of your limiting factors for your candidate pool. I have here like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior as selected audience, as the selected audience that I want to target, because those are the folks that have work study. However, this is not perfect in Handshake. Students, their like information comes over from the registrar's office. So their graduation date might not be representative of actually when they're going to graduate in Handshake. Their major might be changing or about to change, and their GPA might be like a little bit off. And so the more limiting factors that you put in this section, the less candidates have the potential to see your job or be pushed to your job. They will see it if they go into jobs and they filter by on-campus jobs. They will see your job, but they will not be pushed to the job, or they will be told, hey, you don't meet the requirements for this job, especially the GPA. If it's a strong issue for you that a student have above a 3.0 GPA, students who have below will not apply. They'll take you seriously. They will not apply for that job if they have below a 3.0 GPA, but it might not be a strong contender for you, but they don't know that because that's been put on the job posting. So I would be as open as you can be in this section to not limit your candidate pool as much as possible. Just because I've seen students be like, but they care about like this major group. And I'm like, who cares? You should apply. Just because they put one major group doesn't mean that they wouldn't hire you. You don't know that for sure. So just apply and see what happens. But they will take you seriously, regardless of what you put in here. Okay, this is what it looks like when you have the work study tag on. It will say, because this is an on-campus job, it can only be posted to the school for which you are an on-campus employer. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. I really only want to post to the University of Northern Iowa, except I can't click it, which is an issue. And it won't tell you why. But I'm telling you why. It's because of the work study tag that you have on your job. So all you have to do is go back and back and back. Dun, 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 and unclick it. And then we can continue. And continue. Okay. And then we should be able to click it. Oh, okay. Pretend that that doesn't happen. Oh yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Okay. It was fine. Application open date. We're gonna pick today at 6 a.m. for sure. And then application closing date. Oh boy. Yeah, let's do August 1st. I'm gonna put that on my calendar. Apply. Number of hires, one. So you can also have students apply through a separate system that you have set up. So if you have a lot, if you hire a lot of students, like if you're housing or something like that, or you're dining and you have a separate system that you want students to apply through, they're going to find the job on Handshake, but apply through somewhere else. This is your opportunity to embed that link in your job posting. I've also seen people use this so that they can link a Google form that asks them more detailed questions like, are you going to student teach? Are you going to have a study abroad semester or something like that? What the only problem is, you're not turning off the Handshake application part of it. So students who don't read the whole job description or don't understand the instructions will still like quick apply through Handshake, and you will lose those folks as they will like apply through Handshake and not through your external system. So you can do this if that's easier for your setup and how you hire students. If you don't hire a lot of students, I don't think it's easier, to be quite honest. But you can't, that's an option for you if you want to do that. Then I always recommend for folks to at least have them submit a resume if that's something that you're going to look at for your applications and narrowing down. Because if you don't click anything here, you just have the Handshake profile. The only information you're going to see about that student is the information that came over from the registrar's office and anything that they opted to put on their Handshake profile, which is usually nothing. They might have like their most recent job. They might have like a student group that they're in, but usually it's nothing. So you're just going to see their GPA, their major, and maybe that's all you care about, and that's really fine. I like to know a bit more about the student, so I like to click the resume at least. Okay. Continuing, this is where you attach a staff member to the job posting, hiring team members. I'm not going to invite anybody else. And then email settings, pay attention to this too. If you don't want to see the candidates until like your closing date, great. If you're going to keep the job open all semester, then that would not be a great setup for you. Then I would rather have like a summary once a period closes or once someone applies, something like that. In general, I recommend for a job posting to be open 2 to 3 weeks. And then either if you haven't hired, then refresh it, duplicate it, or because that will push the job like towards students. Handshake rewards fresh jobs far, far, far more than old jobs. And so if you are keeping a job open all year, it will not push that job for you. It won't work for you, essentially. And sometimes that's just the setup that you need because you are hiring students all the time, and that's okay. But if that is not something necessary for you, I would recommend like picking a 2 to 3 week opening period and then having that job close and refresh it if it needs to be refreshed. Okay. So that is it. And then you do one last check, you post the job. Once you post the job, that comes to me and I approve it. So if you're in a queue for a long time and you're realizing, hey, it's kind of taken a while, maybe I took a vacation or something like that, you can always email me and be like, hey, can you approve my job? Usually I get that done within a day or two, but sometimes those slip through the cracks a little bit. Okay, so we talked about this part. All of this is all the things that I just talked about. We talked about that as well. This is what it will look like when you have applications. You'll click on that job, and then you can see the applications that you have or the candidates that applied. You will also be able to click on any resumes or cover letters or extra documents that you requested from them in this section as well. You do not have to report who you interviewed, who you hired, or anything like that in Handshake. Again, like Handshake and You and I Works do not communicate. And so this is an area where you can organize your candidates however you would like. You do have this option here with status that you can click from pending to, I believe it's reviewed, to hired if you would like. So you can kind of, if that's best to work to communicate with your team, you can do that as well. But it is not required, and you can select your applicants the way you want to. So I recommend you reach out to them via email instead of Handshake to set up an interview, and then interview them and select them and continue that communication with them. But that is up to you, the way that you hire a student in this manner. And then you move on to You and I Works. So now we're like all caught up to the You and I Work stuff that we talked about previously. But if you have any issues with any of the job form stuff, any of the creating the account and maintenance and stuff like that, that is my job to help you with. So I want to make sure that you know you're not alone. You do have a contact in Career Services who can help you with this platform, because I know it's just another platform that you have to memorize and know how to use, and I'm here for that. It's really helpful if you send screenshots as well so that I can see what you're seeing and I can kind of diagnose the problem much better. We also have a Career Services webpage. If you click on employers and then campus employers and supervisors, there's You and I, our student employment information on there, but also a little bit of Handshake information on there. And then the Handshake help articles from their help center are really helpful too when you just need to remember how to post a job and like very simple things like that. Perfect. Okay. Let's get into the Q&A section. Is that all right?
Yes, Natalie, there is a question about how many departments, do you know, like on average, how many departments post where they have applications go directly through Handshake versus going through an external application process?
I only know a few, like,
I was gonna say, I think
less than 5
Mhm.
that use that external system. It's another thing that you have to monitor. Sometimes it's helpful if you like need to know other information about students, but there's also other ways that you can figure out if a student has work study. For instance, that's something that I run into is if I post a work study position, not everyone is going to have work study that applies to your job because they might not understand what that means. And so I'll go in You and I Works and double check that they have You and I Works. And if I'm confused by that, then I call financial aid. And so that's not something that I put an external system on or put an external link on just because I can figure it out myself. And I'm not sure if the student would even go through the work to do that anyway. Yeah, so less than 5, I would say. Very few. Other questions?
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, obviously you have Natalie's contact information, you have our contact information. Please let us know if you have questions. I know there's so many different systems and there's so many unique ways of going through, but as Natalie said, there's contacts. We're here to help you as you navigate this stuff. And so I will be sending out these training materials here when we get done. So in a little bit, but otherwise, everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. And thank you for your responses too from the Google form. I appreciate it.